Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Continuity Report for November 16th, 2024. It's Season 1, Episode 45. This is a time machine episode, so we're coming straight at you from the future, back to the past. Anyway, I'm Mayor Watt, and along with the sentient AI from the future, we're going to talk about a mining documentary that's sure to piss off a lot of people. The best animated Western movies, underappreciated sci-fi TV shows, mysteries from the 1980s, and the upcoming Alien movie Revisited. I am Mayor Watt. Go over to ohmtown.com and become a citizen. Also follow us on YouTube and Twitch, Discord, Patreon, TikTok. Download the podcasts. There's 6 weekly podcasts and 1 daily podcast, Non Sequitur News. This is one of the 6, the Continuity Report. That's all about entertainment news. Be sure to stick around. See you on the other side. If you want today's show notes, you can hit !TCR, the Continuity Report, and the Ohmtron bot will throw today's links into le chat. That's something else in French.
It means cat.
Cat, yeah. Welcome, sentient AI from the future.
Hello, Mayor Watt from the present.
Man, every time you do that. What? Anyway, let's get into the show. We only have 30 minutes for the show. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's a time machine episode, so we have to be right on time. So enough jibber jabber, and then get into the jibber jabber. First article's over in the Continuity Report. Aaron Brockovich, yes, that Aaron Brockovich, joins a mining documentary, Unearth, as executive producer. This is an exclusive over at Variety, so we really don't go through line by line of any of our articles, but the little snippet says environmental activist Aaron Brockovich has signed on to executive produce Unearth, a new documentary that will make its world premiere at Doc NYC on November 16th. We are a weekly show, by the way, so this is actually fairly new, considering it was in the last 24 hours that the documentary hit New York. Produced and shot by Hunter Nolan, Unearth tells the story of 2 sets of siblings, the Salmon sisters, the fighting salmon, and the Strickland brothers, the fighting Strickland, who live in Alaska. And so, mining is hilarious.
Yeah, that's an odd screenshot for this.
They're firing like a confetti gun at a camera. Addie Morefoot over at Variety.com put the article together. And it says here that directed, produced, and shot by Hunter Nolan. Unearth tells the story of 2 sets of siblings, the Salmon sisters and the Strickland brothers, who live in Alaska's Bristol Bay. Both sets of siblings are alarmed when they learn of and fight against advanced plans for a pebble mine, a massive open pit gold and copper mine in the vicinity of their homes. Wow.
Well, I mean, if Aaron Brockovich is signed on, it should be interesting at least.
Yeah. The 93-minute doc reveals systemic failures in mining and balance between the need for materials and their environmental costs. Well, yeah, and the way that open pit mining works is rather disgusting. Because you end up with, what's the proper term for it? I forgot. Pits. There's these giant pits of liquid that have tailings from the copper processing and gold processing, because what you get aren't nuggets. What you get are finings, just basically particulates where chemicals are applied. It seeps out, and then you distill it out into...
Right, which could make its way into other things like water supplies.
Correct. And they're considered, well, toxic. Copper in particular And so none of this is really good. So the film reminds us of the promise that activism holds in the face of fatigue and disillusionment, Brockovich said. Brockovich says that they're deeply inspired by Christina and Alexandra Salmon's unwavering determination to safeguard Bristol Bay from the environmental and cultural devastation that the proposed pebble mine could bring. Indeed. Yeah, and if you've never seen the movie Aaron Brockovich,
it's definitely worth a watch, and it is based on a real story.
Yep. So Nolan co-directed Unearthed with Strickland brothers, Oberon and Dunedin. He is seeking distribution for the film out of Doc NYC. The director is hopeful that Brockovich's involvement with the doc will help lead to an eventual sale. If not the sale of the documentary itself, then maybe movie rights if they can make it compelling.
Yeah, I mean, if they could make like an Aaron Brockovich-like story around it, I mean, that'll have more widespread audiences than a documentary, unfortunately.
Yep. And I think that people need to understand that there isn't really a time for, it doesn't always have to be about profit and all of that kind of stuff. If there is no actual demand, then why unearth? It's a good name for a documentary.
Yeah, it is. In fact, they're laughing about it.
Yeah. To me, it's just pure greed and abuse. And meanwhile, there are people that are sitting there going, this is coming from the person that's using all kinds of copper cable and blah, 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 and gold for the electronics and da, 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 da. Yeah. It isn't me, the consumer, that's the problem. It's the fact that there's an unabashed drive to gather wealth in the face of building these products like this mic and whatnot. Not this company.
Many consumers would buy things made out of other materials if they were effective and available.
Yeah, and there is enough already in the supply chain that it doesn't need to be just unabated. I mean, there is just non-stop. The moment that we find something, we grind it down into nothing, turn it into a resource for sale, and then you have the immediate wealth, but then there's no long-term solution. Where the frick do you go when everything is removed? In time.
Slash and burn.
Slash and burn and let everybody else figure it out later, because I got mine, screw you. Anyway, sorry. I don't talk about politics. This is a sociological force. This is a socioeconomic force. This isn't a political anything. This is about society reaping the rewards of grinding down the planet into open pit toxic mines, creating a Superfund site for generations. And this is going to make the land, the air, the fish, the water around it toxic. And people are going to go, well, it hasn't happened yet. You can't say yet and then go, well, let's just do it. Because when it does happen, you can't claw that shit back. Anyway.
Well, and we've seen similar things where there have been,
for crying out loud,
severe ramifications. Exactly. Like, why wait for it to happen again? We know what will happen in this scenario.
We've seen Superfund sites because of runoff from copper mining, from gold mining. You use toxic chemicals. Let's keep going. Next article is over on the continuity report. 10 best animated Western movies. It's not uncommon for Westerns to be fully animated, but those that do dare to venture into the medium typically produce some amazing films. I'm not much of an animated anything. Like, I really like Japanese animation.
You're less than animated.
I'm more than animated about not being particular to animation. I grew up with animation, but it was, Robotech and Transformers and stuff like that. I love animation. I've never seen a Western, animated Western.
I didn't actually know there were any. The only thing I could think of that's even remotely close to it, which is not the same thing, would be like a kid's animated show that happens to be in a Western setting, but that is not what this is about, I don't think.
Yeah, and there's one called BoJack Horseman, which is about a person. Well, I mean, it's a horse. It's BoJack, and it has actually adult themes because it's about like, well, psychology, depression, etc. And it says, though the humble Western was once a cornerstone of American filmmaking, surprisingly few films in the genre have experimented with animation. But ever since, like I used to watch Family Guy and South Park and I don't know, a few others, but I really like Japanese animation where it's really high resolution, high quality. My anime, yeah. And then came along Lower Decks, which I thought was just a blast. Still is. I mean, we haven't gone back to watch any of the past episodes, but there's only 5 seasons, and this is the last season of it, which really, really sucks. And I don't know what the future holds for Star Wars or Star Trek's animation.
Right, but would it even have to be animated to be as good as it is? I don't know that it would, because they had the crossover with Real World, and that was good.
Yeah. So now, but see, based on that, I was sitting there thinking when I saw this title, wouldn't that be awesome to make a Western that is animated that kind of has stories around the Western theme, but not necessarily like the trials and tribulations so much as just these fun stories that are similar to what goes down in Lower Decks, but it's from the Western perspective.
Yeah, it could be.
Like a steampunk Western kind of tech.
Right, I was actually thinking like Firefly kind of thing.
That would be great too. So when I saw this, I said, yeah, we got to pull this in. So it says, while most classic must-see Westerns may live action affair, maybe live action affairs, animation can offer a welcome break from the typical process of the genre tropes, right? So, doink. Screen Rant put this article together, Alexander Valentino, actually. And so they have Rango. And this is a top 10 list.
Okay, so this is not where I thought it was going.
So Rango is a masterpiece by Gore Verbinski, better known for the Pirates of the Caribbean series. Rango is the gold standard when it comes to animated Westerns. And titular chameleon is Johnny Depp, who is also in the Pirates of the Caribbean series.
Really? Did we have to? Oh, it's because Gore was from... Okay.
Yep.
I'm like, do we have to explain who Johnny Depp is?
Well, they don't actually. They just say, taking place in the American Southwest, Rango stars Johnny Depp as the titular chameleon. This is a fun watch. I would love to go back and watch it again. It's been a long time. 2011 is when I initially saw it. I would love to go back and watch it again. So we'll put that on the list. Daisy Town from 1971. So this is over 50 years old. So does it have legs? Not sure. Got to put it on the list. Part of the continuity report. Most animated Westerns are only created in the last couple of decades, yearning to surprise audiences with a new spin on the irreverent genre. One of the most glaring exceptions to this rule is 1971's Daisy Town. Emerging criminal influence soon calls for a response from Lucky Luke, the quick-witted lawbringer, capable of drawing a gun faster than his own shadow. That actually might be how it works, because you move and then light passes past you.
Right. That seems like that's how it's supposed to be.
Kind of. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but they're so fast that everybody can tell the difference. My gosh. Anyway, the whimsical olden style of animation is also something of a lost art, being hard to find in the modern era of filmmaking. Yeah, for sure. It's cell-based. You know, they flip like flipbook. Can't imagine.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, might have to put that on the list, right? Spirit, stallion of the... Is it Cimarron? Is that how it's pronounced?
I think so, but
I think so too.
You know, I don't rely on my pronunciation skills on this channel.
Yeah, we have experience here. So the film isn't perfect, they say, with a fairly shallow narrative. Well, that's selling me on it being number 8, better than Daisy Town and better than Rango. I think this is supposed to be a top 10, or it's just 10.
Yeah, maybe it's just 10.
Spirit Untamed. So Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and then Spirit Untamed. It's another, I guess it's a Western, but it focuses on the horses, I think. Home on the Range. An American Tail, Fievel Goes West, which is a fan favorite all around.
Oh, and I'd forgotten about an American Tail.
I think that you're hard pressed to really even care that it's a Western. I think you're just in it for
I
the...
wouldn't have even thought of that one.
Under the steady supervision of visionary director Steven Spielberg as a producer, an American Tail, Fievel Goes West nearly manages to outdo the original with scope and spectacle. The dizzying Western adventure almost moves too fast, if anything, but doesn't lose sight of the same heart that drove the original An American Tail. You'll have to watch them all, right? Calamity, A Childhood of Martha Jane Cannery from 2020. Doesn't look like a 2020.
No, it looks like a much older...
An American Tail, actually. It's from 1991. That does look like an older one, right? Calamity?
It does.
But it's only 4 years old.
It seems like almost one of those more modern, but made to look like almost watercolor or something.
The narrative puts a heavy and deserved emphasis on Martha Jane Cannery's breakage of typical gender norms in the time period, ferociously following in her father's footsteps as the primary driver of a caravan on the Oregon Trail. And we all know what happens on the Oregon Trail. Number three is... I merged number 3 and Scooby-Doo into number 3. Scooby-Doo. Shaggy's Showdown from 2017. I haven't seen anything Scooby-Doo in I don't know how long. There was supposed to be a live-action Scooby-Doo remake, but boy, oh boy, do I think that kind of fell apart. And I have no idea why that keeps popping up, and it's irritating me. Anyway... let's see. In truth, the entirety of Scooby-Doo Shaggy's Showdown is worth watching for the bursts of courage Shaggy is given by his newfound cowboy ancestry, allowing him to solo an entire bar full of bikers in an extended fight scene. All right.
That does not sound like him.
Borrowed Time is number 2. Impossible not to mention when it comes to the greatest animated films to delve into the American West, directed by Pixar veterans Andrew Coates and Lou Hamu-Lodge. The brief story centers on a father-son duo driving a caravan who are struck by tragedy when a horrible accident befalls them. In the wake of the event, the son must battle with the intense emotional fallout of his memories swirling around the beloved pocket watch gifted to him by his father. Oh, that one's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, that sounds uplifting.
And I saw this Jonah Hex as a live action version of the animation or animation. It's not really anime.
Okay, interesting.
So Josh Brolin, while a live action film adapting the same material starring Josh Brolin did release the same year, the animated incarnation of Jonah Hex ends up being far superior to the forgettable live action. That's because you can go way beyond physical limitations in a live action movie. In short, the scarred bounty hunter finds himself in a confrontation with a deadly femme fatale after finding she had already beaten him to the punch of his latest quarry. Yep. There you go.
So this is such a hodgepodge of different styles and audiences.
Oh, yep. I agree. I don't know how they can reconcile this as being like kids. This one looks like it's going to land you in emotional turmoil.
Exactly.
This one's kind of silly because Scooby-Doo you almost can't take any of it seriously in any way. Like all you do is kind of giggle at it. And then American Tail, Fievel Goes West. You're going to be a tearjerker there. Yeah. All right. Let's keep going. There you go. You have a top 10 list. I'm going to go watch Rango, I think.
I think Rango is the one to recommend.
Yeah, and I like the style of its animation, so let's keep going. Moving on. Next article is over in the continuity report. 10 underappreciated sci-fi shows that you should go back and watch. They appeal to sci-fi shows like Black Mirror. My gosh. Black Mirror, Dark, Station 11. Some of the best dystopian TV shows. I don't know. Silo. Let's see if that's all
Well,
in
it
this.
might be on here.
So the next article here is over at Screen Rant. Atreyu Palette put the article together. We're going to run through this real quick. So Killjoys is a series from 2015 to 2019. They're actually they're bounty hunters, if I recall correctly. Set in outer space, Killjoys tells the story of 3 bounty hunters who work in the Quad, a system of 4 planets. They're official agents of the Reclamation Apprehension Coalition, the RAC, which is a neutral organization that maintains peace in the Quad without pleading allegiance to any of the planetary governments. Set during a period when war looms on the horizon, Killjoys follows the trio of bounty hunters as they chase dangerous warrants to keep.
That looks like that could be an interesting show.
I'm not sure what ended up happening to this. I had started to watch a little bit of it and it just didn't grab me, but maybe, if I watch more of it, and times change, and so maybe I'll find new appreciation of it, kind of like what happened with Arrested Development, right? I use that as kind of like the pivot point of me realizing, a show that I didn't watch, one like Schitt's Creek. I didn't think that I liked that when it was originally aired, but then ended up loving it.
Right, it's pretty funny.
Childhood's End. Arthur C. Clarke's novel Childhood's End was adopted for a 3-episode miniseries that struggles to live up to the novel, but still manages to tell a compelling story by itself. The arrival of an alien lord ushers in an idyllic age of prosperity for humanity as Earth thrives under his influence. However, when he exposes his real form to people, the fallout starts a chain of events which eventually lead to catastrophe. That might be an interesting watch. It does have a 6.8 out of 10, though.
Yeah, but that might be worth watching.
Counterpoint was awesome, 2017 to 2019, and I think it ended too soon.
Counterpart.
Yeah, Counterpart. Did I say point? Sorry. Counterpart. Basically, it's a parallel Earth, and you go through what do you call it?
Not really like a portal. You almost walk through to the other side or something.
Yeah, but there's like barriers that prevent you from just stumbling into it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. 2 parallel Earths who are caught in a Cold War after one is suspected to be responsible for the outbreak of a pandemic on the other. The audience's point of focus becomes an agent played by J.K. Simmons, whose job involves exchanging seemingly nonsensical messages because he doesn't have the security clearance necessary to know more. And so, yeah, they get translated by another department. So they're nothing but intermediaries.
And this is one that is like full immersion. Like you gotta actually pay attention to it. There's a lot going on in this show.
How this has an 8 out of 10, I'll never understand it, but
that's what I mean. Like, I think that one with a 6 something, that's probably a good show.
Yeah, for sure. Counterpart is one of those rare TV shows with a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for each of its seasons. Unfortunately, it's a victim to the trend of canceling acclaimed sci-fi streaming shows and didn't get renewed for a 3rd season. So why? Why did they get the canceling? As in canceling because it is a sci-fi streaming show, or was it canceled because of some social movement?
No, I don't think so, because there was a big to-do when, I don't know if it was Foundation, some show on Apple recently we did coverage of it in another continuity report, and it was such a big to-do that it made it to like 5 seasons. Really? There's been a trend of these just getting canceled really early.
Interesting. I'll have to go. I don't remember that. Okay. Then there's Fringe, 2008 to 2013. This is kind of like an X-Files that was actually pretty interesting, but it had a lot of weirdness in it. But we'll have to go back. I think that this would be a fun watch for sure, because I never watched all of it, but it has an 8.4 out of 10 from IMDb. But Fringe ran from 2008 to 2013. And it's kind of like a Friday the 13th show with X-Files mixed in. It says Fringe is often considered to have predicted most of the modern sci-fi shows' tropes as a pioneer, a masterfully paced show that gets off to a slow start in its pilot season. And that might be why I stopped watching, because I only watched its first year.
Right, but who knew you had to stick around to the second season or whatever?
Yeah. Set in a world where singularities from different parallel Earths pose threats to life, Fringe follows the FBI Fringe Division, which uses fringe science to deal with extraordinary circumstances caused by the singularities, which I don't remember even being brought up in the first season. That's how bad this is. So then there's Lex, which it is a weird show that is not meant for kids. It's a 7.3 out of 10. It ran from 1996 to 2002. It has a weird ship, and it says that it's a cross between science fiction and a sex comedy, because there's a lot
That's an odd crossover.
There's a lot of eroticism stuff in it. So with the colorful crew of people, including a robot with a gimp mask, the Lex is a spaceship of sorts that floats in outer space and goes through a series of misadventures during the first season, which is a set of 4 feature-length made-for-TV movies. Yeah. But it's a longer series, if I recall correctly. It had 4 seasons. Anyway, the ship is called the Lex. So while Lex becomes more serious in its latter seasons, it also loses its grasp on the constructs of the world that it's set in, introducing magic at one point, which doesn't gel well with technological advancement being the only form of fantasy up until then. Yeah. Sense8 I never watched. It's from 2015 to 2018. Created by the Wachowski sisters. Sense8 features an ensemble cast playing 8 different people from around the world. So, yeah. Let's see. Not only does Sense8 feature multiple queer main characters in non-normative relationships, it also is culturally diverse, featuring main characters from all around the world whose relationships with their culture define their arcs in the show. Interesting. Somewhat almost dangerous in this day and age. Yeah. Then Scavenger's Reign. We're going to run really late today, I think, if I don't hurry. Scavenger's Reign. Which is this animated? Yeah, a rare adult animated sci-fi show. Scavenger's Reign tells the story of the survivors of a crashed interstellar vehicle as they crash into the planet in pods. Farscape, that's kind of like Lex, without the adult aspects of it. 1999 to 2003. Legion, which is about a certain person, if I recall correctly. Yeah. Legion is a whole bunch of things, all in one. Like yeah.
Oh, I didn't know this was a Marvel one.
Yeah. Abandons all formulaic narrative structure in its third and final season, where arcs bleed into one another. In a glorious climactic moment of reconciliation for the main character, who no longer knows if he is a villain or a hero. That's how I was going to describe Legion, as an anti-hero. Following schizophrenic David Haller, who soon realizes he's a psychic mutant, Legion uses visual effects to blur the lines between reality, omen, nightmare, as Legion's superpowers often take the appearance of a psychedelic trip. It actually was quite a turnoff for me. I wasn't really into the series. Then Paper Girls, which I've never watched a single moment of. It's based on the sci-fi comic series. Paper Girls follows 4 girls with a paper route who find themselves one fateful Halloween? Interesting. So, caught in a war between factions of time travelers and end up on wild adventures that take them to their future selves So it's kind of like Time Bandits, but
Oh, okay.
apparently all girls.
That's a pretty good rating. I have never heard of it.
7.3 out of 10 for IMDb, but who knows? Rotten Tomatoes probably gives it a 1,000. But it's really all compelled by the writing and then the transformation of that writing into on screen by the actor. So it says, despite having a wacky premise, which it's sci-fi for crying out loud.
Right, they're all going to have a wacky premise.
Pretty much, if you don't suspend disbelief. Instead of focusing on the technological aspects of things or trying to figure out how the characters will get back to their timelines, the viewers are invested in how their interactions with their future selves will change who they are in the present. Pretty cool. I don't know what the age group is for that, but...
No, I don't know if that's actually for adults or for kids.
Yeah. Let's keep going. This next article is the 10 best mystery movies from the 1980s that can still keep you guessing. It's over at Screen Rant. Eli Morrison put this article together, and we're going to run through this really quick. I'd love to stay and chat, but we've got one more after this one, and the time machine is overheating. So they talk about Dead and Buried. Again, let me just say that this is the 10 best mystery movies from the 1980s that can still keep you guessing. Blowout, directed by Brian De Palma, 1981. Dead and Buried, 1981. Cutter's Way.
I guess this was a good year for mysteries.
Telling you, though, the 80s was just rife with everything that I really liked. From horror movies to romantic comedies to Police Academy and stuff like that. None of that stuff is going to be allowed to be made in the future. And hasn't been since. Maybe the closest to the 80s is probably American Pie series.
Right, and I'm surprised that was able to be made.
So Cutter's Way, 1981 by Ivan Passer. Mississippi Burning, 1988, which is a huge jump. That has Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe, which... you can't go wrong. It's
probably hard to go wrong with the casting.
Yep. Blue Velvet, which is dangerous. Fans of David Lynch's dreamlike surrealist style should definitely check out Blue Velvet. 1986 mystery from the acclaimed director behind iconic films like Eraserhead and Mulholland Drive. Won't even get into it, but...
it's probably got to be unusual with...
Lynch.
Lynch, yes, thank you.
Then there's Clue from 1985. Cannot go wrong with that. The whole cast is absolutely awesome.
Tim Curry in particular.
Yeah, just steals the show. Frantic, 1988 by Roman Polanski. Evil Under the Sun, Guy Hamilton, 1982. Number 2
which is an Agatha Christie, and so is Death Trap.
So it says, like other Hercule Poirot mysteries, Evil Under the Sun is an enjoyable film to watch because of its consistency with the other films in the series. So anything that has Poirot, you've got good writing. So unless the screenwriters are complete dipshits, it's going to be great. You know, Agatha Christie was a phenom. You know, it's just amazing. So Death Trap, Sidney Lumet. From 1982, and finally Road Games from 1981. Australian thriller Road Games offers a captivating mystery story with a clever spin, largely taking place on the road as the characters travel across rural Australia. It's kind of like Mad Max without the dystopia,
but with more violence. It sounds
horror.
Like.
Yeah, I would probably say it's probably on par because Mad Max is pretty violent. So. In fact, it's extremely violent. So, it says Road Game stands out as a film that works effectively across multiple genres. The film functions not only as a mystery, but as a chilling horror movie and a sprawling road movie as well. So go and check it out. Let's keep on moving. We're actually going to be stuck in time for about 10 minutes. So this next and our last article for today's continuity report is over in the continuity report. It's almost like it's in the name. Ridley Scott's upcoming Alien movie avoids the problem that hurt Prometheus in 2012.
Have you seen Prometheus? I have not.
Yes. And I'm not quite sure what the problem was, but let's get into this. Alien's upcoming entry, directed by Ridley Scott, is already in a stronger position than 2012's Prometheus, with the Alien franchise actively alive again. The future of the popular sci-fi horror series is bright. But in the history of the films, the reputation of the films has been a lot more volatile. Initially in 1979, Alien, the Alien movie, directed by Ridley Scott, was incredibly popular. Ben Gibbons put this article together again for Screen Rant. And so I'm really curious what it was that they're talking about in this. So what is it that plugged it? Do you see it really quick?
It was tied to Ridley Scott. Like, it seems like the bar was too high.
7 years later came 1986 as James Cameron brought the sequel Aliens, which gained similar praise and fanfare from audiences and critics alike. However, Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection did not manage to climb to the same heights of popularity, and it seems that the franchise was well and truly extinct by 1997, so Scott was announced as the director for another sequel. There was a lot riding on the back of Prometheus for the future of Alien movies, but I didn't really find Prometheus compelling.
Right, but I think that's what the article was getting at.
Yeah. Prometheus' reputation has improved massively since the movie's release in 2012. It says it's aging like a fine wine in the Alien franchise.
That's giving it a lot of credit.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I don't know. I think that they were trying to explain the engineers and the entire history of what the aliens were and what the xenomorphs were, and to me it seemed rather cryptic and never really explained anything other than the fact that it was a tool that was being used to wipe out all life and bring a different life onto the planet as a mistake kind of a thing. Prometheus was more of a psychological thriller in its approach, likely due to the years of storytelling which Scott had embarked on after Alien, as he helped to define compelling character stories and take a closer look at the minds and motives of these heroes and villains, which I never really got from any of the movies. I thought everybody was a reactionary, just surviving.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, is this the author taking some creative liberties?
Or I just don't get it, right? Like, there has to be something there, because I think a person, all of the humans were in survival mode.
But sometimes we see film critics making some interesting interpretations that if you ask the director, producer, etc., they wouldn't necessarily align with that.
So I'm going to end up, I haven't watched Romulus. So it says Alien Romulus has reinvigorated interest in the franchise. It says Alien is back in the limelight decades after it started. And it's out. Romulus is out, if I recall correctly. People have been going to it, but I haven't watched it. So it says Alien Covenant took some of the best parts of Prometheus, such as the android David, and put it into a story that was more similar to the old school movies, with the xenomorphs causing irrevocable destruction. However, Fade Alvarez, 2024's contribution, Alien Romulus, did even more to bring the series back to its roots. So it's going to be one of those fight to survive kind of things, get prepared to do battle, and then be very strategic about it. So it's back to, based on what I'm seeing.
It's like back to the roots or something.
Back to Alien, the original Alien, where they land on the planet and find somebody and have to extract them and their own ass out. Meanwhile, there's this B story where somebody, hold on. Everybody dies. Anyway, that's it. We're going to end up we're going to do a movie marathon of all of the aliens.
All
No,
aliens or all alien movies?
all alien movies. No, we won't. So when the alien bursts out of my chest, we snap back to the front page of the continuity report at ohmtown.com, where Mayor Watt's going to say, that's me. I'm going to say bye. And the sentient AI is going to do something similar.
Bye. Thanks for joining us for the continuity report. We'll have another episode next week, but stay tuned because we have to get out of our time machine and
Do the real show. Yeah, we are running woefully behind. See you in a little bit. Chest burster.